Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel, where we explore fascinating lore, hidden histories, and powerful characters from the Lord of the Rings universe. If you enjoy deep dives into Middle-earth and want to support a growing channel, please remember to like the video and subscribe. It truly helps a lot, especially since we're still at the beginning of this journey. In today's documentary-style analysis, we begin an epic exploration of Morgoth, the first and most powerful Dark Lord ever to emerge in Tolkien's Legendarium. Before Sauron rose to terrorize Middle-earth, Morgoth shaped and shattered the world itself. His story begins before time, unfolds across cosmic battles, and ends in tragedy, darkness, and prophecy. Now let's start unraveling the origins of Morgoth, the enemy who set the stage for every shadow that followed. In the beginning of Arda's shaping, Eru Ilúvatar brought forth the Ainur, among them the Valar and Maiar, each woven with purpose and power. Among the Valar stood Melkor, the mightiest of them all, whose restless desire drove him to search the void for the flame imperishable, the sacred fire that only Eru himself possessed. As he wandered the emptiness, Melkor's thoughts began turning away from harmony. He longed not merely to participate in creation, but to command it, to mold life according to his own will. Yet without the flame, he could only distort what already existed, a truth that would shape his fate. When the time came for the music of the Ainur, Melkor wove his own ideas into the great theme. His discord clashed with the melody of Ilúvatar, and some of the Ainur, moved by his power, shifted their voices to follow him. For a moment, harmony and rebellion struggled as equals. Ilúvatar responded with a second theme, more noble and strong, yet Melkor rose against it with even greater force, driving many of the Ainur into silence as chaos overtook beauty. Only when Ilúvatar introduced a third theme, soft, sorrowful, and impossibly beautiful, did the discord meet its limit. Melkor tried to overpower it, but this final theme endured beyond his reach. When the music ceased, Ilúvatar revealed that no melody could exist outside his design. Even Melkor's rebellion would ultimately serve a greater purpose. Ashamed yet unwilling to submit, Melkor hid his resentment. Along with the Valar, he entered Ea, the created universe, and descended into Arda. Immediately he cast aside all pretense, declaring himself the master of the new world. His brother Manwë, troubled by Melkor's intentions, called more Ainur to Arda to protect its shaping. As the Valar worked to construct mountains, seas, and valleys, Melkor moved to unravel everything they built. He razed lands only to break them, tore down the work of Aule, and poisoned harmony wherever it grew. Thus began the first great struggle for Arda's future, a conflict that would linger through ages. As ages passed in Arda's early shaping, news reached the Ainur who had remained with Eru, and soon Tolkas, the Vala of war and relentless strength, descended into the world in the year of the Valar 1499. His arrival shifted the balance instantly. Laughing as he came, Tolkas pursued Melkor, whose pride faltered before the Vala's power. Melkor fled beyond the walls of night, consumed with a new and everlasting hatred for Tolkas. From that moment forward, the two would stand as bitter enemies. Time in those early days moved differently. 1 year of the Valar equaled roughly 9.5 years for mortals. So from their arrival in Arda in year 1 to Melkor's escape in year 1499, nearly 14,000 years had passed. As the Valar continued restoring what Melkor had marred, he hid in the outer darkness, biding his time. The Valar completed the shaping of Arda and raised 2 mighty lamps to illuminate the world. They dwelled in Almaren, their first home beneath the balanced light. Yet Melkor's power grew even in exile. Some of the Maiar turned to him, attracted by his strength or swayed by fear. Among them was likely Sauron, who would one day become Melkor's greatest servant. These followers acted as spies, watching the Valar from within the world. Eventually, Melkor returned in secret, while the Valar feasted after completing their labors. During this celebration, Tolkas married Nessa, whose dance filled the feast with joy. But Melkor watched with bitterness. As Nessa danced and Tulkas drifted into peaceful rest, Melkor decided the time had come to strike. With his corrupted Maiar at his side, he passed through the walls of night and descended once more into Arda. Deep beneath the earth, he carved out the fortress of Utumno, hidden in the mountains of iron in the far north. From this place, malice seeped into the world, blighting the lands, twisting animals into predators, and sowing chaos. The Valar soon realized Melkor had returned. They searched tirelessly for his stronghold, but he attacked first, descending upon Almarin and destroying the two lamps. The world convulsed with fire and flood, and the symmetry the Valar had shaped was broken forever. With Almarin destroyed and the world plunged into chaos, the Valar gathered their strength to contain the fires, floods, and shattered lands left in the wake of Melkor's assault. Using all their power, they stabilized Arda enough to prevent total ruin, but the symmetry they had once crafted could never be restored. Their first home was lost. Forced to abandon Almarin, the Valar crossed the sea and reached a new land in the west, Aman, where they would rebuild and begin anew. There, they founded the shining city of Valmar and created fresh sources of light, the radiant two trees, whose golden and silver glow marked a new era for the world. These became the years of the trees, measured in the same way as the Valian years, each one roughly 9.5 mortal years. Only once the first, second, and third ages of the trees passed would time in Middle-earth begin to mirror the years as mortals know them. With the Valar gathered in Aman, Melkor found himself largely unopposed across Middle-earth. Even so, certain Valar still traveled the wider world to counter his influence whenever possible. Ulmo moved through the waters, subtly shaping lands and guiding events in ways that would later prove crucial. Yavanna acted to preserve growing things, and Orome, the great hunter, rode across Middle-earth for sport and for war, slaying the monstrous creatures Melkor had unleashed. Meanwhile, Melkor continued to gather strength in Utumno. He corrupted more Maiar, binding them in shadow and flame until they became fearsome Balrogs, loyal only to his will. During this dark period, he built a second fortress, Angband, and placed Sauron there as its commander, his most trusted and capable servant. Time marched on until, in the year of the trees 1050, the first elves awakened in Cuiviénen. Both Orome and Melkor found them, but Melkor struck first. He terrified the elves, killing or capturing many in the shadows. Through torture and twisted experiments, he is believed to have fashioned the race of orcs from these early captives, a cruel mockery of the children of Ilúvatar. Once the Valar discovered the elves at Cuiviénen, Manwë decreed that it was the will of Eru to reclaim Middle-earth from Melkor. Thus began a decisive campaign. In the year of the trees 1090, the Valar marched into Middle-earth to wage war against the Shadow. This conflict, later known as the Great War of the Gods, erupted with overwhelming force. An immense host from the west advanced into the northwest of Middle-earth, clashing with Melkor's armies in battles so fierce that entire regions were reshaped. Though the struggle was terrible, the Valar claimed victory in its first great confrontation, driving Melkor's servants back to Utumno. For 2 full years, the Valar secured the surrounding lands, placing guards around the Bay of Cuiviénen to protect the newly awakened elves. Meanwhile, they pressed their assault northward, determined to bring an end to Melkor's dominion. From afar, the elves could see only distant fires in the north and feel the trembling of the earth, unaware of the vast forces battling for their future. By the year of the trees 1099, the Valar finally broke through the gates and roof of Utumno. Melkor retreated deep into the lowest pits of his fortress, but Tulkas pursued him without hesitation and bound him in the chain Anganor, which Aule had crafted for this very purpose. Utumno collapsed under the might of the Valar, though its deepest chambers remained unexplored. In that darkness, Sauron and many Balrogs escaped capture, fleeing into hidden places to await their master's return. The war left Middle-earth transformed. New mountain ranges rose. the great sea expanded and fresh lands and waters formed. The Valar returned to Aman with Melkor shackled hand and foot, dragging him before the throne of Manwë. There, Melkor threw himself upon the ground and begged for mercy. His plea was rejected, and he was cast into the halls of Mandos, whose gates none could break, not Vala, elf, nor mortal man. There he remained for 3 full ages, imprisoned for roughly 850 years, his mind turning ceaselessly toward vengeance. During Melkor's long imprisonment within the halls of Mandos, the world continued to change. Many of the elves eventually journeyed to Aman, settling under the light of the 2 trees. After 3 full ages passed, Melkor was once again brought before Manwë. Bowing low, he appeared repentant, humbling himself and asking for forgiveness. Though Tulkas and Olmo distrusted him deeply, Manwë chose to release him, believing that no evil could endure beneath the light of the trees. But Melkor was not reformed. Instead, he began working in secret, studying the elves and searching for ways to influence them. Among the elven kindreds, Melkor found the Vanyar wary of him, their hearts too closely aligned with the Valar to be swayed. The Teleri, known for their love of the sea, he deemed too timid to be of use. But in the Noldor he discovered something far more promising. A passionate people, eager for knowledge, always striving for mastery in craft and lore. To Melkor their curiosity offered a perfect weakness to exploit. He walked among them with feigned humility and kindness, subtly planting seeds of doubt. In the year of the trees 1169, a child was born among the Noldor, a child destined to become both Melkor's greatest foe and his most tragic instrument. This was Feanor, creator of the Palantiri and, most importantly, the Silmarils, the 3 jewels that captured the unmarred light of the 2 trees. Melkor watched him closely. As Feanor grew in brilliance and pride, Melkor whispered rumors throughout the Noldor, tales of Middle-earth's vast lands, of freedom denied, of Valar who wished to keep the elves confined in Aman rather than allow them to rule realms of their own. Doubt took root. Some of the Noldor began to question their place, especially Feanor, whose fiery spirit responded quickly to any hint of restriction. Melkor, recognizing the tension within the House of Finwë, further manipulated the rivalry between Feanor and his half-brother Fingolfin, feeding mistrust wherever he could. His plot was unfolding exactly as he desired. Melkor's whispers continued to spread throughout the Noldor, and tension grew steadily. His lies deepened the division between Feanor and Fingolfin, preying on Feanor's pride and fiery temper. Eventually, in the year of the trees 1490, the strain reached its breaking point. Convinced by Melkor's manipulation that Fingolfin intended to usurp his place and seize the Silmarils, Feanor threatened his half-brother's life. The Valar swiftly intervened. As punishment, Feanor was banished from Tirion and sent to Formenos, where he took the Silmarils with him. Out of loyalty and love, Finwë departed Tirion as well, choosing to dwell with his son in exile. Realizing that Melkor was behind the unrest, Tulkas sought to seize him, but Melkor vanished before he could be apprehended. He disappeared from Aman for 2 years, hiding his movements and preparing for a far more devastating strike. Then Melkor reappeared in Formenos, attempting once again to influence Feanor. But this time, Feanor perceived the truth. He saw the greed behind Melkor's fair mask and recognized the hunger in his eyes for the Silmarils. Enraged, he slammed the door in Melkor's face, rejecting him outright. Having been exposed, Melkor fled once more. He journeyed into the dark southern reaches of Aman, to Avathar, a shadowed land crawling with ancient and sinister things. There he met the monstrous being Ungoliant, a spirit of endless hunger who had taken the form of a monstrous spider. Melkor promised her a rich reward if she aided him, and she agreed, though her loyalty was as thin and treacherous as webbing. Together they shrouded themselves in a cloak of impenetrable darkness and set out toward the most sacred place in all of Aman, In the year of the trees 1495, while the Valar gathered in Valmar seeking reconciliation between Feanor and Fingolfin, Melkor and Ungoliant moved silently across the land. Their cloud of shadow drifted toward the two trees, the heart of all light in the world. And there, under the cover of their devouring darkness, the unthinkable was about to unfold. As the Valar gathered in Valmar seeking peace between Feanor and Fingolfin, Melkor and Ungoliant reached Azelohar, where the two trees stood in full glory. Cloaked in absolute darkness, they crept upon the sacred mound. Ungoliant's shadow grew so deep that it blotted out even the mingled silver and gold light of Telperion and Lorelin. Then Melkor struck. With his black spear he pierced both trees to their core, and their sap spilled like glowing blood upon the ground. Ungoliant fell upon them at once, draining their light with insatiable hunger. Her venom withered the trees until their radiance faded, their leaves curled, and their life-giving luminescence died. For the first time since the beginning of Aman, the world was plunged into total darkness. Shrouded again in their smothering cloak of shadow, Melkor and Ungoliant fled northward. They moved swiftly toward Formenes, where Finwë and the Silmarils remained. Ungoliant, now swollen to monstrous size from consuming the trees, light, radiated a suffocating blackness. When they reached Formenos, Melkor slew Finwë at the door, the first blood spilled in Aman. He seized the Silmarils and countless other gems crafted by the Noldor, storing them greedily under his cloak. Together they fled toward the icy wastes. As they crossed Helcaraxi into Middle-earth, Ungoliant's hunger grew unbearable. She demanded her reward, every gem Melkor had taken. Desperate and weakened, he surrendered all but the Silmarils. But when she demanded those as well, he refused. The Silmarils burned his hands, yet he would not release them. Enraged, Ungoliant attacked, binding him in webs of shadow and smothering him with her massive bulk. Melkor let out a terrible scream, a cry so deep it echoed across the world. That cry reached Angband, where the Balrogs lay hidden. Hearing their master in peril, they arose in fire and shadow, rushing to his aid. With their whips of flame, they drove Ungoliant away. She fled into the south, consumed by her own hunger. Melkor, trembling but alive, returned to what remained of Angband, clutching the Silmarils. Now set in an iron crown he would never again remove willingly. Back in Aman, news reached Feanor too late. He returned to Formenos and found his father dead and the Silmarils stolen. In a grief filled with wrath, he pronounced a terrible curse upon Melkor, and gave him a new name that would endure through all ages. Morgoth, meaning Black Foe of the World. From that moment, the Vala Melkor was known no more. Morgoth, the Dark Enemy, had fully emerged. As the Valar mourned the loss of the two trees and sought to restore light to Aman, Morgoth established himself in Angband, reforging and expanding the fortress into a near-impenetrable stronghold. There, with the Silmarils set in his iron crown, he proclaimed himself the king of all Middle-earth. His power radiated from the north, spreading fear across the lands. The returning Balrogs and countless creatures he had twisted over the ages flocked to him, rebuilding his armies. Meanwhile, Feanor rallied the Noldor, consumed by rage and a desire for vengeance. His words stirred many hearts, for Morgoth had slain their king and stolen the greatest treasures ever crafted. The Silmarils were more than jewels. They held the light of a world that no longer existed. The Noldor felt their loss deeply. Feanor's fiery spirit ignited theirs, and soon many declared they would follow him across the sea to Middle-earth to reclaim their birthright. But the Valar counseled patience and grief, not war. Morgoth's assault on Aman had left their world in ruin, and their attention was fixed on healing the last remnants of the trees. Still, Morgoth's shadow grew. For 600 years after his return to Angband, he battled the elves ceaselessly. Great kingdoms rose and fell. The Noldor who pursued him across the sea would become both his greatest opposition and the architects of their own tragedies. Thus began an age of long warfare between Morgoth and the elves of Middle-earth, an era marked by heroism, betrayal, suffering, and endurance. A conflict whose echoes would shape all ages to come. For 6 centuries after Morgoth's return to Angband, Middle-earth remained locked in relentless conflict between the elves and the Dark Enemy. Kingdoms rose in defiance, only to be shattered by his armies of orcs, balrogs, and twisted beasts. Yet despite his power, the wars of those early centuries were not the end of Morgoth's story. According to prophecy, a final reckoning still awaits, a last battle in which Morgoth will break the door of night and return to the world he once nearly destroyed. In the distant future, it is foretold that Morgoth will re-enter Arda and unleash his malice once more. The Valar and the children of Iluvatar will stand against him in what is known as the Dagor Dagorath, the last battle. In this final conflict, Tolkien, Ianwe, and Turin, returned from the halls of Mandos, will confront Morgoth directly. It is foretold that Turin, who suffered so greatly from Morgoth's curses during his mortal life, will strike the killing blow with his black sword, finally ending the long shadow of the Black Foe. With Morgoth destroyed, Arda will be healed, the wounds of the world mended, and the music of the Ainur fulfilled in its final and perfect form. The tale of Morgoth, from his rebellion in the Timeless Halls to his corruption of Arda and his theft of the Silmarils, forms the foundation of all evil that would follow. Sauron, his greatest lieutenant, rose in his place after Morgoth was cast into the void. The wars of the First Age, the downfall of Numenor, and even the One Ring itself all exist as echoes of Morgoth's ancient malice. Thus concludes the long chronicle of the first and greatest Dark Lord. His actions shaped the destiny of elves and men alike, and his legacy continued to haunt Middle-earth long after his banishment. The shadow he cast endured across ages, but so did the courage of those who stood against him, ensuring that even in darkness, hope would never be wholly extinguished.